thank you for joining us all the way from the
Yeah.
Netherlands. And over to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to be here after all these great sessions and the terrific keynote session from Rupa. Hopefully, I can show you something you haven't seen already in the past sessions, but I'll try my best. I have a presentation on 5 of the features, the project operations features I like best. And it's always difficult to select the 5 features, but that's just 1 hour, so I have to do it with this, no problem. So I will show you, but first, one quick introduction of myself. My name is Mignon, as I said early on, and I live in the Netherlands, really in the south of the Netherlands. At the moment, 6 o'clock in the evening. I love to talk about project operations and finance. I have a background in finance, long way back. In my daily work, I'm a pre-sales consultant at GAC in the Netherlands, one of the bigger dynamics companies in the Netherlands. And I've over 25 years of experience with NIV. I started as an NIV consultant, and now it's called Business Central, as you know, and moved my way to project operations in the last 10 years, I think, when it started with project service automation. We also started selling the product, and now I'm a big fan of project operations and try to sell it to our customers and make people enthusiastic of that product. So hopefully I can show you something you haven't seen, and maybe I'll dive into some topics that were mentioned earlier this day, and hopefully show you something new. So if there are any questions, Q&As, Russ, I think you will help me by getting them. So I made a selection of a couple of topics I want to elaborate on. Of course, Copilot. The last year, Copilot was introduced within project operations. Rupa told us also. So I'm going to show you some of that functionality. What I think is great is that project operations is integrated within the sales functionality, Dynamics for Sales. The flexible pricing structure, Sebastian also mentioned it, with all the rates you can set up in the system and the cost prices and everything is going on with that one. There are multiple invoicing methods, which you also can combine in all kind of things, or any way you want to. And the last part is about the working of all the actuals and how that is leading to a solid audit trail, because you can really follow what is happening in the total process from time registration to invoicing and everything, all the phases between that. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So if you have any questions, I'll pause after each topic, and then we can see if there are questions for that part. So let me go on to the next slide, and then I will go into that one. So first about Copilot. I'm not going to dive into all the Copilot functionality, but I've made a selection of 3 Copilot functions that are in the system, and I think they're really great. Generating a task plan. So when you set up a new project, it can be really difficult to make all the tasks available to your team members. Rupa said there's going to be some kind of template or a way of copying a task from another project, but with the help of Copilot, you can have good setup of a project and adjust it the way you want it afterwards. Also the option to create a risk assessment and let Copilot create any risks that can be that can happen in the project. So that's a good one. and the generation of a project status report, also mentioned earlier. So these 3 topics I wanted to show you. First, start with the generation of the task plan. When you set up a new project, what you need to do then is give Copilot a little description of what you want to do within this project. So when you first start, the task grid is empty. There's nothing in there. But when I put in a description, for instance, the customer wants a Dynamics project operations implementation with extra effort on migration of data. When you save this, you can let Copilot generate the task plan. It gets information all over and starts collecting data and building that into a task plan. And what is really neat about this is that it also works with subtasks and everything, and also puts effort in it. So when the task plan is created and you open it, all the tasks, you see that it has come up with a lot of tasks grouped into parent tasks, and also puts duration behind it. And as long as that little toggle is running, you know that it's saving in Project for the Web, what already was mentioned earlier. But now everything is saved into the Dataverse database. So Copilot has created this first this task plan. It also says in the top, make sure AI-generated content is accurate and appropriate before using. So you always have to look at it and see if this suits your needs. But when you go on and with this task plan that was created by Copilot, you just can go on and make the adjustments you need. So, for instance, you're going to assign those tasks to different roles. So you can use those in resource assignments and bookings later on. So you're just going to put in some team members. You're going to adjust the effort, and based on the role that you put in and the calendar of that role, when you change the effort, the duration will be changed. So you have a lot of options later on, but there's a good basis that Copilot did, and you can adjust the task plan to suit your needs. So really helpful functionality. And what I see, if you start using it, if your description is accurate, then the task plan that's created by Copilot will also be really good. So it's a good basis and nice functionality to get a head start into your projects. So the next feature is creating a risk assessment. This is also Copilot functionality, and you can use this in an existing project. The one tip I want to give you is that you have to log at least one actual to the project, otherwise this function is not available. So you need to write some hours or do anything to get an actual into the project before this function will work. What it will do is when you go into the risk tab, now it's empty because we didn't find anything show here. You can create your own risks by hand, but you can also let Copilot do that trick for you. And it's computing, it's analyzing, and it will come up in this case with 4 AI suggested risks. Also with that mentioning on the top. Every risk, every subject has a description and a risk probability, and also a mitigation plan. You can open it and you can change whatever you want to. So it's just the first setup of the risks created by Copilot, thought of by Copilot, and you can add these and even do this moreover in the project once you go further into the project, because when you do this again, it might come up with other risks based on the status of the project, based on whatever's happening in the project. So you can do this over and over again in the project. You can delete the risks if you're not happy with those. You can add them, you can change them, whatever you want to. So really good functionality, and I think this will help project managers in their daily business when delivering a project and planning a project. So really good functionality and just really easy to use, but make sure to have one actual in the project. Otherwise, you won't see the function on top. That's there. So the last Copilot functionality there is generating a project status report. I think every project manager has to make status reports internally and also for the customer externally. And Rupa said it, there will be templates added to it. Now, at the moment, how it works at the moment is that when you have a project that's running, you can let Copilot make the status report. You can make a choice in an internal or an external status report. So when it's processing, the status report that's generated will automatically be logged into the project. So you can see when it was created and whether it was an internal or an external status report. There's a lot of information on there. As long as if the project is running for a long time, then all the graphics will be filled in with more detail. You can adjust it, so you can edit the text that's in there, save it again, you can download it, you can make it a Word template, you can run a report, you can do anything you want with it. There's a good link on top to see that it's for internal use only. And like I said, everything will be logged into the project. So you can see that an internal report was created on the 17th of August. So you can open it again and you see that the adjustment I did is still in there. So that's saved also. So like I said, there are two different status report. One is the internal, for internal use only. That has also information on financials and on everything that's in there on the tasks. And the external report doesn't give that information on financials because you don't want to show that to your customers, but has sort of the same information. And I'm really looking forward to what Rupa said, that you can use a template with your own company logo or anything, so you can make it more better for your own company and your own layout and whatever you want to do with that. So that's for the Copilot functionality. There's other functionality in there. The time registration Copilot and the resource assignment Copilot. But I didn't choose them for today because I only have 1 hour. So that's the first topic. Res, are there any questions so far? Because I cannot see that at the moment. I think not. I don't hear anything. So I'll just move on to the next part. And that's about the sales functionality. I think you know that project operations is integrated within Dynamics 365 Sales. So when you put the solution into Dynamics, you'll get all the functionality. And there are a lot of options that you can use and makes it really a rich functionality. So I'm going to talk about the project baselines in the opportunity and quote, the estimates you can get from a project into your quotes, and the total story from opportunity to contract. I'm going to show you that one. So with project operations, you get at least 3 extra apps, 3 additional apps within Dynamics 365 Sales. So the project operations app, that's the full user, the team member, and the resource scaling app. So these are the apps you're going to use. And if you are opening, for instance, the project operations app, you'll see there are a lot of areas available. The sales area is available. That's the basic of Dynamics 365 sales. But you also get information on projects and resources. So it's built on top of sales functionality. So you will see that when you just open the sales area, you see that you have leads, opportunities, quotes, and project contracts. So project contracts and everything that's down there, transactions, approved time, etc., that comes with project operations and is added to the sales functionality. So this means that, for instance, these great views on opportunities like you have in the sales app, you also have in the project operations app. So all the need functionality from Dynamics 365 Sales you can use within project when you use project operations. So this means that, for instance, also the Copilot functionality that highlights, gives highlights on all the timeline actions that are in a project opportunity, and the Copilot chat that's summarizing, for instance, this opportunity. Also works within project operations. So you'll get the total view from lead to contract in one application. I think that's a great addition to the sales functionality, using that from project operations. So when you go further on and you have an opportunity, when you know Dynamics 365 sales opportunities, you have product-based lines. Those are the only lines you have within an opportunity if you're using sales. But with the addition of project operations, you also have project-based lines, because you want to sell projects to your customers and not only products. So with project operations installed, you can have two types of lines: project-based lines for the projects you're going to sell to your customers, and product-based lines for the items or materials or whatever you want to sell to your customers. And both lines can be combined into one opportunity and one quote, because when you move on to the next phase, from opportunity to quote, you will see that all the information from the opportunity is taken into the quote. And last year, project operations was, we got this great overview, this project quote information overview, with all the details and all the graphics and everything, which gives you a good overview of what's happening within this quote. But also all the project lines that I got from the quote will be in the that I got from the opportunity will be in the quote. In the project quote information view, the project lines and the product lines are separated in two different tabs to give more overview, to give more information in one tab. But you will see that all the information I put in the opportunity will be taken to the quote. And when I move on and when I want to estimate what this quote will be in amounts, what I'm going to offer to my customer, I would like to. I have the option to create a project. The project I even can write hours on in the quote phase. But when I create that project, I can take all the estimates from the project into my quote to make a good offer to my customer. So here comes, in addition to the sales functionality, I can use the project information in my quote. So all the estimates that are in the project, I'm going to import them into the quote line details. So with all the billing types and the roles and the rates and the amounts and the quantity and everything that's in the project, I'm going to import into my quote. With that said, the quote will be updated with the estimates from the project. And when the customer says, okay, this is an offer, I cannot refuse, I'm going to sign it, you're just going to activate this quote as one, close this quote as one, and then in one go, the contract will be created, because those quote lines, everything is in the project lines are in the quote. And when I move on and I want to close this quote as one, automatically the project contract will be created, and all the information that I had in my quote is also in my contract. So I still can see from which quote and opportunity this project contract originated. So that link will always be available. I'll also have the option to make a project contract without a quote or an opportunity. But if you follow the total process, everything will be linked to each other. And all the information from the contract lines, the quote lines, will be in the contract lines. So the project already was created during the quote phase, and it's automatically linked to this project contract. So the total sales phase, everything the salesperson has to do, is now in one go from lead, if you want to opportunity, to quote, and to project contract. And once the project contract has been created, then all the time and materials and expenses, everything that's booked on the project, can be invoiced to the customer. So that's in one go, is that what's going to happen. And you will see that the total phase from qualifying to propose to contract can happen in an instance, as long as you, in like the way you are talking to your customer. If you propose to the customer, so you send a quote to the customer and the customer says, I want this and this adjusted, you can make a new quote or revision on the existing quote, but the total process can go on, and eventually the project contract will be created. So that's why I think this is a really good functionality, and everything is built on top of the sales functionality. So Res, are you there at the moment?
Hello, yes, we do have a question.
Okay.
So we have a question from Hugo, who is asking, what are the current customization capabilities of Copilot project reports? That was more pertaining to your previous
The first one, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was, I think Rupa also answered that question, that the customization is coming with the templates that are built in the future. So I think that's coming. At the moment, it's not really customizable, but otherwise, what I show you was that you can edit it, but after it has been created. But I think that in future, this will be more customizable. And if I recall correctly, that's what Rupa also said.
Thank you, Mignon.
That was the question? Okay, then I'll move on to the next one. The next topic is the pricing structure, the flexible pricing structure. I've worked with project operations and before that project sales automation for a long time, and met a lot of prospects and customers. And I think that all kinds of pricing structures can be handled within project operations. I don't recall that I ever had something that we couldn't do with project operations and all the different pricing structures and opportunities you have. So there are multiple price lists, there are different price types, there are price overrides, there are discounts and fees, anything you can imagine, and anything you can work on. So let me show you how it works. If you're familiar with sales, you have product price list, but in project operations, you have specific project price list, of course, because the weight structure is a little bit different for resources than for projects, for products. But when you have a price list, you can set up price lists in different currencies. Later on, I'll show you that it's even possible to have different currencies within one price list. But in the basis, it's just a price list per currency. And each price list has specific context. Whether it's the cost price list, so what are the costs of the resource, whether it's a sales price list, what am I going to invoice to my customers? Sebastian said that's what the salesperson is interested in. And also purchase price list, and purchase price list you can use in combination with subcontracting. So when you're hiring consultants, for instance, from a subcontracting company, then you'll get a purchase price for that resource you're hiring. So that is something you're going to set up in purchase price list. And price lists can have a starting date and an end date. So, for instance, you have a price list for 2024 and a price list for 2025, if you want to do it like that. So all this information you will see when you open one specific price list, for instance, the sales prices for Europe, and you will see that this is a sales price list with a starting date of the 1st of January this year, no ending date. So as long as I don't put in an ending date, these sales prices, these prices will be good for the coming years. There's a currency attached to it and a time unit. And further on, you see different price types, as you can call it. Roll prices, roll price markups, category prices, and material prices. And let me go through the different price types we have within one price list, because that's what we are talking about. So when you have a look at the roll prices, in this case, you will see that I have 4 different prices. And the difference between those prices is made up by the role. So each resource in project operations has a standard role, a default role, or extra roles he can perform. And if a resource writes hours as a consultant, in this case, his sales price is 150 euros. So based on the role of the resource that's writing the hours, or the role that he uses in the timesheet, in this case, the price will be determined. Prices can be set up per unit. So like in this case, 150 euros per hour. But it can also be a transaction cost. Then the cost price of the resource is eligible for determining the sales price, or a markup over transaction cost, for instance, 15% over the transaction cost of that resource. So those are the different types of price calculation you can set up for one price level. When you go on, you can also say a specific resource, has a specific price. And in this case, not only the resource has a specific price, but also when he's doing a job in the role of a consultant for a specific resourcing unit, that's the price of the resource. So you can choose all levels of price dimensions, how they are called, to set up the resource prices. And there's a priority in those price dimensions. So in my setup, the functionality will first look at, is there a specific price for the resource? If there's not a specific price for this resource, then go and look at the role the resource is registered as hours on. If it's not, then go and have a look at the resourcing unit, and so you can determine how the levels will be taken into consideration when the hours are approved and actuals will be created. So there's a lot of possibilities in setting up those price lists. Furthermore, you can work with overrides, and overrides are really good in the way that, for instance, during the year, the price of a role changes because everything is getting more expensive. And for instance, consultants from the 1st of January, they cost 150 euros per hour. From the 1st of February, they cost 152.5 euros per hour. And from the 31st of March, the price still goes up. So with those price overrides, when we didn't have the price overrides, you needed to make a new price list or change the price in the price list at the time that you want it to be higher. But with these price overrides, you can, for instance, by now say at the 1st of April, the prices need to go up. And you don't have to wait until the 1st of April to make that price change. So when a resource is writing its hours, the document date of the time entry determines which price needs to be taken into that actual. So that's what's happening, and you can have as many overrides as you want to into this system. When you put in a price override, you can put in whether it's the change of the amount. So for instance, 5 euros or $5 extra, or you want it to change with a percentage, 5% more or whatever. So these price overrides are also really flexible. And you can set it up anytime there's a price change. So that's what happens. Furthermore, you have the option to update prices. And when you use this function, it will take all the prices in this price list and, for instance, update prices with 1.5% increase, or this could even be a decrease. So if you made a mistake or whatever, or you want all the prices to change by tomorrow, you can just put in a price update and all prices will be updated to that percentage increase or decrease. So that's also an option. When you put in a price override, you can also tell the system that price override is only applicable on a customer or quote or project contract. So normally we have different rates for different consultants, for different roles, for different resources, whatever you want to. But in this case, I just want all consultants that work on GSA Business Solutions, our company, to have a price of 175 euros. So when time entries are created, the system will have a look at all the price lists and will see that when the customer is this customer, prices will be 175 euros per hour. So that's also an option to make specific prices per company, per account, or per code, or per project contract. So a lot of flexibility into this functionality, into this price list. Once you've set up a specific price per a customer, or just use the standard price list per customer, you also have in quotes and project contracts, you have the option to put in discount percentages and fee percentages. These will be calculated on the standard prices and will be calculated in the actual price you're going to sell to your customer. So those can be a combination. So you can put in discount percentages and fee percentage. Discounts will go decrease the rate, and fee percentages will increase the rate. So that can be a combination of everything. In the actuals, you will see what the discount amount and the fee amount will be. So a lot of flexibility into the system. And what you need to know is that when you're setting up the system, you have project parameters in which you can say that what I told earlier, that you will enable multi-currency cost price list. So it will be able in the cost price list to have multiple currencies in one price list. If you set this to yes, so that's a really important option. And the other settings you need to do, and you need to think about how you want to use it, is the price list defaulting behavior. When you're creating a contract or creating a contract from quote or put in custom price options, because this can lead to multiple price lists or overrides in existing price lists. So if you have a lot of contracts, project contracts, and you're always creating a new price list if you are adjusting the price for a resource or role in that specific price list for that contract, then a copy will be made of that price list, and you'll get a lot of price lists, which if you have a lot of contracts, can be bad for performance you can have performance issues. So you need to have a good look at these defaulting behaviors to make sure that not every time you add something in a contract price list, a new price list will be made and copied from the original price list. So something you need to be aware of when you're setting up the system and first are going to use project operations. Besides all these role prices, you have category prices. For instance, for all the expenses you're going to put into the system. Those can be cost per unit based on a price per unit. For instance, kilometers have a standard price. It can be a transaction cost. For instance, when you have a hotel invoice you want to put into the system as an expense, then the cost of that invoice will be put as an expense into the system. Or you can have a markup on top of that cost because you want to bill it to the customer with a markup of 5% over the original cost. So also for these category prices, you can use different types of price calculations. And the last one, you have material prices for the products you're going to sell and that you're going to put into the project. And this also works in the same manner as all the other prices, role prices and category prices. So also price per unit, transaction cost and markup over transaction cost. And also with the different currencies and if you have different countries, different currencies, and so on. Because we are in Europe and most of Europe is in euros, we hardly have any price lists in other currencies, but you can set it up any way you want to into the system. So that's all about all those price lists and all the options you have in price list. Just try to make price lists and just register hours and approve them and see what's happening, because there's a lot of flexibility in there, and beware to have a good look at those options in the parameters to get a good setup of the system. So Russ, any questions on this one?
No question on that one.
No question on that one. Okay, that's a good one. I see I have 20 minutes left, so I'll just move on to the next one. And those are the multiple invoicing methods. Just like the price list and all the rates and the cost prices and everything's in there. Also, the invoicing methods makes it a really flexible system, because you can have time and material, you can have fixed price, you can have a combination of that. And you can work with advances and retainers. So there's a lot of setting up to do to get the correct invoice to the customer, but it also gives a lot of functionality in there. So when you go into a project contract or an order, how it's called, there you have, like I've shown you before, the contract lines, and in the contract line you have a billing method. So if you're not familiar with project operations, you have a project contract, and linked to that project contract are projects, but they are linked through the contract lines. So that's a layer between contract and project. And that layer is there because the contract line determines how the billing method will be. So in this case, for this project, I have one project linked to that contract line, and the billing method will be time and material. So all the hours that are written, all the expenses that are registered on this project will be invoiced just time and material. So hours, quantity versus price. So that's the method that's being used. You can also set up a contract with one contract line where that project will be built based on fixed price. So no matter how many time is registered or expenses are registered, this project will be built based on a fixed price. And in the contract line, in the invoice schedule, you need to set up which fixed price terms you're going to invoice to your customer. And you can use an invoice frequency in here. So on a monthly basis, on a 2 monthly basis, or whatever you want to, weekly basis if you want to. You can set up an invoice frequency. You put in the billing start date, and you can let the system create the milestones that will be created and will be invoiced to your customer. Or you can put those in yourself. So if you have not normal invoice frequency, but this week and next week Thursday and the week after that on Monday, you can put in these milestones by yourself. So each milestone has an invoice status, in this case not ready for invoicing, but when you're going to invoice the first milestone, you put it to ready for invoicing, you create the invoice from the contract, and the invoice status will be updated once the invoice is posted. So in the invoice schedule, you determine which milestones you're going to invoice to your customer. The total amount of the milestones needs to be exactly the same as the total amount of the contract, of the contract line. Otherwise, you cannot close this one. But in the invoice status, you just can follow what's happening with these milestones. So that's good to know. Setting up a fixed price contract line also needs an invoice schedule behind that. But you can also have a combination of fixed price and time and material. Also within one project. So if you have a project, a long project, in which you have a first phase that you want to invoice based on fixed price, and the rest of the project you want to invoice on time and material, that also is possible within one contract line. So in this case, you see that the same project is linked to those lines, it's at one contract line, but to both contract lines. And what's really important is the option in included tasks. So in this case, the selected project tasks that are linked to the contract line will be will be invoiced on fixed price or on time and material. And this works in the project. So you need to go to the project that's linked to those contract lines. And in the task billing setup, you're going to tell the system which tasks are linked to that specific contract line. So in this case, the requirement analysis and all the tasks, all the subtasks from this parent task will be invoiced on fixed price, and all the other tasks, configuration setup, and everything that's going behind after that will be invoiced on time and material basis. So really flexible method, and you can go anywhere you like. You can put in all the as many contract lines as you wish into one contract, and also link more projects to those contract lines. So really flexible. All the projects, all the contract lines that are in one contract will be invoiced on the same invoice. So when you are going to create an invoice on this one, all these will become available in that one invoice if there's something to invoice at the time you're creating the invoice. So that's on fixed price and time and material and the combination on that one. But we also have advances and retainers within the project contract. So if it doesn't matter how you're going to invoice to your customer from this contract, whether it's fixed price or time and material, you can use advances and retainers to already invoice something to the customer before you're doing the work and before you're going to actually invoice the hours you made. So you just set up the advances and retainer schedule. You tell the system how this retainer schedule needs to be created with a start date, an end date, or the number of retainers on the monthly invoice frequency, as I have here, for the total amount of 20,000 euros. And the system will create this retainer schedule, as it's called. And also here you can see, based on the invoice status, if the first advance or the first retainer has already been invoiced. And in this case, the first one has been invoiced, and there's an available amount of 10,000 euros, which will decrease in time as you are going to bill all the time and material hours, for instance. So this available amount will be taken into the next invoice once you have registered hours and have actuals and everything that's going on with that project. So really flexible methods for invoicing your customers from your project contracts. So then I will come to the latest one. I don't hear anything, so I don't think there are any questions at this moment. Hopefully everything's clear. And then you will get to the working of actuals, because when the project is being delivered, time will be registered, expenses will be registered, all kinds of actuals will be created. And in project operations, you have different types of actuals: cost actuals, unbilled, intercompany actuals, everything that's in there. And to get a good understanding of what's happening in your project, you need to have a bit of an understanding how actuals work. So I'll try to explain in a simple manner. I have my time entries in 1 week, entries on different projects with different rules, different days, everything that's in there. So once I submit my time entry, these entries needs to be approved. And then these entries, when the project manager is looking at these approvals, he will see that there's a billing type and there's a sales price and everything that's in there. This billing type will be taken from the project contract, because the two lower, the two lines on the bottom, the two approvals on the bottom, the last one is linked to a fixed price contract. That was one contract. And the third line is also linked to a fixed price contract line. And because those are linked to fixed price contract lines, there will be no sales price because we're just going to invoice the fixed price and not the time that's registered, nothing in time and material. So when you're going to approve these time entries, you will see what's going to happen with the actuals. So when you create those, when you approve those, you will see that all kinds of transaction type actuals will be created with different transaction types. And that's all based on what's happening in the project and the contract lines, of in the contract and the contract lines. Cost lines will always be created for every time entry that has been approved. And the price of those cost lines is based on the cost price list. So that's what's happening. And unbilled sales lines, unbilled sales actuals will only be created for time and material projects. So in this case, I had four time entries that have been approved, 4 cost lines have been created, and 2 unbilled sales actuals have been created because those were the only time entries based on time and material. So that's why I only have 2 unbilled sales lines. But furthermore, when I have a resource in one contracting unit and that resource is a registered time on a project from another contracting unit, then the resource, the unit that is giving the resource to the other contracting unit will want some amount for hiring that resource to the other contracting unit. So in the background, if time entries are approved, the system will see that those contracting units, the contracting unit and the resourcing unit are different, then automatically 2 extra actuals will be created, an inter-organizational sales for the resourcing unit, so the contracting unit the resources is part of, and the resourcing unit cost for the contracting unit that's hiring that resource. So these lines, these actuals are automatically created, and you can use them in your finance system to post intercompany automatically. So really good functionality, which can help you in finance to also create those intercompany records. Furthermore, we have when the actuals are billed, or when the retainer is invoiced, or when the milestone is invoiced, then you will see that there will be billed sales actuals. And those billed sales actuals, they correspond with the price that has been billed to the customer. And what happens is that when you have, let's move on, you have one time registered in the first line, 4 hours were in the timesheet of the resource. 4 hours have been billed to the customer for the same amount, same price, but also one negative unbilled sales line is created to correct the first unbilled sales line that was created when approving the hours. So the work in progress in this case is 0 because that line has been billed to the customer. So that's how you can see in the system whether there are still unbilled sales lines that need to be invoiced or not. If after approval of the actuals or of the time entries, you see that something has gone wrong, the wrong role has been used, or the wrong project or project task or whatever, you have the option to correct those entries. The only thing you need to do is click on the entry on the actuals you want to correct. You fill in the new values. In this case, the resource role needs to be an analyst instead of a project manager. And what happens then is that when you post that journal or confirm that journal, you will get new unbilled sales lines. The original lines will be adjusted. There will be a negative line. There will be a new positive unbilled sales line. So also for those corrections, you have a good audit trail of what has happened, and you can see that there have been corrections in the past. So a really good set of actuals which gives you a lot of details of what is happening. And when you look at one time entry that has been registered by a resource that has been approved by a project manager and has been billed also by the project manager, I think, you will see that I have one original cost line that has been adjusted. I had one original unbilled sales line that has been adjusted and has been billed. And I have one billed sales line which has been invoiced to the customer. So that's a good set of actuals for reporting issues to get everything correct in the finance administration. We use Business Central for that. So really good functionality and really good audit trail to see what has happened in the total process of time registration, of project approval and invoicing to the customer. So these were my 5 features I like about project operations. So I don't know, Russ, if there are any questions left.
Hello,
Hi.
Mignon. So listen, Mignon, I have to say this is probably one of my favorite sessions so far. Honestly, it was
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
So, okay, there is a question.
Okay.
So, it's not directly related, but it is somewhat related. So the question is by Yuan, who's asking, in the past, the challenge for some client scenarios was once you close an opportunity, quote, as one, any new changes would be done directly as a new line in the contract, since we can't really link a new opportunity to an existing contract.
Yeah, that's true.
Has any of that changed with this new sales update for Project Ops or something that is coming?
No, not yet, but I think it's coming. It's really difficult to do this. I've talked to Rupa and our colleagues about this because for us, we really would like to have that opportunity because when you have a small adjustment or a small extra work for a small project, extra for a customer, now when you follow the flow from opportunity to quote to a project contract, a new project contract will be created, as Kwan said. But in most cases, you don't want that. You just want to have it linked to the original project contract. That's not possible. So we've talked about that, and I think it's going to come in the future. I don't know when, but we could ask Rupa for that to see if it's on the roadmap.
Well, Mignon, it was a huge pleasure to host you today. Honestly,
Thank you.
It really was, and really look forward to having you on again or meeting you at a community event in the near future. Everybody, follow Mignon on LinkedIn.
Please.
She's sharing her profile now. Mignon, please also feel free to share your link in the chat. So it's a bit easier for them to click and follow you. And huge round of applause, everyone. That was a fabulous session. Excellent session. So thank you so much, Mignon. And hope to see you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic.
Good evening to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mignon. Wow, excellent. What a session. Okay, so we now need to move on to our next session. So we do have Allan and Tiago on. However, they've already done a lot of the hard work. So just give me a few seconds and we will go live very soon. Just give me a few seconds. Okay. Mignon, are you able to stop sharing your screen, possibly? There you go. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let's try again. Right. Still not working. Okay. Let me try one more thing. Okay, let's see if this works. Yeah, okay. So,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Global Dynamics 365 Bootcamp 2025. Right, Tiago?
Yeah, welcome everybody.
Yeah, first of all, I think everybody really loves the team and all the Lego stuff. So big kudos to the organizers and thank you for actually accepting our session. We're very happy to be here today with all of you. Let's get started then. I have some slides just showing a little bit of how the team has made the marketing. We love it. Today, what we are going to be talking to the audience and to you who is attending the event is about maximizing success with Dynamics 365 project operations in the terms of resource and portfolio management, but powered by AI. Yes, AI is the word of the moment, and yeah, we have to use it in a lot of the things on nowadays. So I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna really love it, what we are prepared for you guys today, okay? A little bit about myself. My name is Allan Rocha. I'm married. I actually father of two boys, living in Denmark, and I'm a tennis and chess passionate, apart from Dynamics 365 project operations. Been working on this field for over 20 years. Have made some books about project management and also portfolio management. And I'm actually over 15 years as a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional, and I'm very proud of that title. One of my passions or keywords is, of course, artificial intelligence, project portfolio, and resource management. A lot on efficiency and optimization, whatever we are doing. And also, I feel myself that I'm a pioneer. I really like to try new things and bring that to the community. Yeah. So, Tiago.
Yeah, a few less bullets than Allan, but
nothing less important. All important.
Yeah, but not married. But I have a dog that takes up a lot of my time. Also with the hiking. Sometimes I like to make cheese. It's quite fun. I've been working. Actually, started working in this field with Allan 17 years ago, with a project. For the desktop and then project online and transitioning into all the fun world of dynamics with the project operations. I've been with a fellow of mine for 8 years, and I've been at MCT for about 9 years. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about lately is on the ALM side, making sure we can deliver things with automation and trying to get some AI into that process as well. Yeah.
Awesome, Tiago. About the agenda for today, we are going to be talking and, of course, have a little introduction about the generative AI and AI in general, then the opportunity of AI for all of us that are out there, PPM or project portfolio management, including resource management in a modern organization based, I would say, in Europe, but it can apply for every organization in the world. How you can actually manage your strategic alignment, execution excellence, resource demand, and capacity. Also, leveraging reports with BI and analytics, and closing with AI-led PPM, showing and maximizing factor of AI on the world we live today in the projects, resources, and all the things that are around our execution of our activities. And we close with a Q&A, so I hope we have a lot of time for discussions, but feel free to write the questions in the chat, and we will actually be trying to answer if during the session as well, okay? Moving forward, then a little bit short history about AI. I think everybody knows AI, or at least the machine learning or this concept is nothing new. So it's actually over 50 years ago that this has been actually started with some researchers. And I think Tiago and I actually we both have shared a big experience around 2018 after the machine learning, the deep learning initiative, where we did a project management that was fully built on a chatbot for projects. We call it the PM Auto, and at the time, we did not have generative AI as today, which made a lot of the things expensive and difficult to make. So we do have a lot of learnings from that period, but it shows that how generative AI, which was announced in 2021, has completely changed the landscape. So I think, Tiago, you can also agree with me that it was a lot more difficult to do things at the time, but now it's a different story with generative AI, right?
Yeah, I guess we had basically a prototype agent, but it didn't have all the things that the large language models give for processing the messages and things like that. A lot of the feedback we got was on how it couldn't adapt very well to the message variations, even though it could still do all the tasks. But all the things in generative AI would have made it so much better and would have improved it quite a bit. Yeah.
So for all of us out there, generative AI is really here to stay, and it just makes everything a lot easier. And apart and connecting to that, what is the AI opportunity? And today, when we actually look at the researchers and what the trends are actually doing and bringing us, everything boils down in two factors, which is managing costs and increasing value. When and every time we have to mention or use manage costs within the AI landscape, it's something that we think about cutting heads or maybe head cuts in your organization. But the interesting thing that we actually have seen on the research and also some of the studies is if you look what leaders want from AI, it is actually 2 times higher to improve and increase productivity of their employees than cutting or reducing headcount. So this is a big sign that everyone is already, not only from a perspective of the person, but also from a leadership perspective, has a big view of increasing and making the life of everyone easier leveraging the AI. So I really love this chart. It really brings a lot of information about what actually we can actually explore. And then there is another interesting number that I would like to share. And if you look here, that actually 3/4 actually are already bringing or using AI at the work. But most interesting is more than that, 78% are bringing their own AI tools to work. And this could lead to something called rogue IT, where you try to block or control, but it's a little bit impossible because people just want to use and have that productivity really to their day-to-day work. So I think this also brings up a lot of the things Tiago will show today with a big surprise in the end. I'm not going to say yet, but he has prepared something really cool. But working and building something within the boundaries and the security of your organization, it's really key and really, really important. Then, from a leadership perspective, we also have that it's majority of everyone and every leader that AI is business imperative. We can see organizations with actually lacking plan and vision in more than half of them. But most important, they are really worried of how to quantify the gains. And that's what we are going to be trying to show today, how you can maximize your portfolio, your projects and execution in the day-to-day of your team using AI. Again, if we look at the expansion of AI and the opportunity, personal productivity, it's already there. But now, how can you bring that to the next step on business value, in improving revenue growth, or maybe cost optimization, maximizing success of your resource and portfolio management. And that's exactly what we are going to be doing today, is trying to reinvent and change some of this line of business that you are doing and working today. So I really hope everyone is going to enjoy this session today, and we have prepared a lot of things for all of you. Okay, so stick with us and let's get started. And just to be very clear, the age of AI is now. There is no escape for that. If you look at what every project manager or a project operation employee in finance wants, most of them really would like to have their manual processes being automated. And I hope that we're going to show this through the course of this session, not only how you can use the existing capabilities within Dynamics 365 project operations, but also bring this to a next level with AI capabilities that we are going to show to all of you. So we brought for you here today a little bit of a hypothetical scenario, but basically we have a modern organization within the EU. Like I mentioned, this can also apply for an organization outside EU, but we try to make a business process that everyone can relate. So we try to split and define what are the roles and the profiles within the PPM in my organization. How can I ensure strategic alignment, execution excellence, resource capacity management, and then AI-led powered by AI, together with Dynamics 365 Copilot and special surprise in the end of the session. Okay, so let's get started. And please, Tiago, interrupt me at any point in time you have any questions. We will go together on all these items. So a PPM in the modern organization, as you can see, we have today a portfolio manager, a resource manager, project managers, and team members. But Allan, we have a lot more roles here. We have maybe other things that is not described at this moment. Yeah, we understand, but for the scenario that we prepare today, we should be able to cover most of the items that we want to highlight using to these specific profiles. So those profiles, they are the profiles we are going to be exploring today, and I hope it will show you how you can really make sure all these items are covered for each one of the profiles. So if we look at the profiles step by step, let's try to start maybe from the portfolio optimization. So when I go on the portfolio prioritization and scoring in my return of investment, today, project operations allow us to not only manage and execute all of our projects, but most important, it allows us to build and tailor-made how you can evaluate, score, and also identify impact on strategic drivers within the projects you're running at the moment. How does that look like in real life? It's very, very simple. Imagine you have your portfolio of projects inside project operations. You're able to explore which projects belong to each portfolio, and on each one of those items or projects or initiatives you are running, you can tailor-made and make those adjustments, telling exactly what is the impact that I'm going to be having on each one of those projects against my strategic direction. Tiago, I have a question for you. Can this only work with one specific methodology, or can I actually change or adapt to my own organization methodology? Maybe you can clarify that.
Yeah, and this is one of the really cool things about the product being part of the Power Platform, right? Built on top of the Power Platform, because everything that you're used to doing with the Power App, if you're expanding that model-driven app, you can do here. So you can extend your data model with your own metadata, your own processes, and then take advantage of that to prioritize your portfolio and get these nice little charts that the Copilot is building for you as well, based on the data that your company uses. Though the model we have here, this is something that Microsoft delivers for us to start with, right?
Thanks, and thank you for highlighting also that this is the new kind of a visualize with Copilot. We have not built those graphs that you see. It will automatically generate it based on the information you have on your screen. And look at that, you can already identify the priority of each one of those portfolios based on each one of the scores that are coming for their belonging projects. Moving forward, if I look at my next item is how can I actually run a portfolio simulation and selection within my organization? And that's one of the key points that we bring. We also mentioned in the session, we are going to show some PCF components, or maybe Tiago, you can explain a little bit what is a PCF component. I know you're going to talk about that later, but maybe before we jump into it, what is a PCF component?
Sure. So PCF components are a mechanism that Microsoft gives for us to extend the platform. They're basically JavaScript components. If you're used to working with SharePoint, it's the Power Platform equivalent of SharePoint web parts. And so it's how we can build our own code to change how things are rendered in the platform. And we have the example here of the resource management grid we built and the simulation tool that we built because it was something we saw customers needing, and it's not something Microsoft had delivered yet. Maybe eventually they'll replace us, but it's a way that we can build on top of what's already there.
Very nice. And how that actually looks like in real life. So imagine you just go on your portfolio roadmap where you can see all the different activities belonging to that portfolio, maybe programs. Under those programs, you can have some specific projects, and then you can start creating different scenarios, moving projects around, identifying their prioritization score that are coming for all the strategic alignment and impacts you had before, and visualize what portfolio and when I should run those items to maximize the profit and success within my organization. The nice part is you can always go back to the standard or the original default scenario and visualize what is actually being executed at the moment. And thinking about that, you're able to create several scenarios and finding the right one that brings the max score for your organization. So this is really powerful how you are able to navigate, simulate, and also manipulate the information without actually changing the real data from your server. Also using the components that Tiago mentioned, which is the PCF components, all this data is being handled without touching the actual data. If you want to commit to any specific scenario, that's another story, and this will actually apply to your organization. Another thing that we actually saw and a lot of organizations are looking for is to ensure that they are able to identify dependencies between their portfolios, their projects, programs. And this is something that we have also identified as a gap within the product. So we created a PCF component that allows us to identify and create those dependencies between your portfolios. How that actually look like? Very simple. You navigate to your portfolio roadmap or to the items that you are going to be evaluating. You can go even deeper to the task level if that is required. And then I'm able to say, okay, my portfolio sustainability 2025 can only actually, it is a dependency for me to move to my 2030 Green EU initiative. So by linking those activities, you're able to make a dependency and track easily at any point in time that you must finish a specific initiative before you can start another one. So very, very nice and easily and graphically visualizing how those portfolio dependencies are across your organization. Question for you, Tiago. Can I also create dependencies between my projects and cross tasks dependencies? What is the limitation here? Or can I only do it in the portfolio?
So we do have behind the scenes, we can make links between also tasks in different projects, so we can drill down into it and put there. It doesn't limit the task, so we're not stopping the tasks in the schedule from breaking these links, but it puts it in a way that we can visualize, we can report, and we can highlight the occurrences to people. Right.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. Moving on. What is the next item that our, I would say, portfolio or our organization requires in terms of maximizing or identifying the value or even just identifying the business case for each one of our initiatives? What we are doing here is actually applying the basics of measuring and also creating some metrics to pick the right initiative in your organization on top of the standard project operations. So by using your projects and creating initiatives, we are actually able to describe, create the impact, and automatically calculate the return of investment, and even identifying the benefits that this organization or this initiative will have. So we also highly recommend you to take a look at how you can use this business case measurements and build your own way to evaluate your initiatives. We do have some AI planned for the later moments, but I think once we go into the AI in, I would say, execution level, we actually have today AI suggested project plans. So once I have identified my business case, I would like to now maybe just create a plan that I would like to work with. How can I do that? And this is using the standard Dynamics 365 Copilot. And maybe, Tiago, you can tell how this works behind the scenes to all of us.
Yeah, so this one is one that Microsoft delivers out of the box for us, where it looks at the projects, the data that we have, looks at some of the metadata on the that we've given to the project, and it will suggest tasks that fit that kind of project for us to use. Right.
Very nice. Can we create our own? Do you have any surprises during the course of this session for us later?
So yeah, before Microsoft did this one, we did our own as part of the Synapse, Fellow Mind Synapse AI module that we have, and we took a similar approach, but using Azure OpenAI on Azure, or Microsoft OpenAI on Azure, where we took our own different dimensions of data that we wanted for generating the tasks and fed it into that AI model.
You're going to show that later, right? So let's skip that nice spot for later.
We can skip that one for later.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Cool. So in terms of execution excellence, we have, again, after I have created my project plan, after I have that schedule automatically generated using AI, how can I ensure that this plan is realistic, being reflected within my organization? And this is how project operations bring native scheduling powerful machine, which, like Tiago mentioned in the beginning, we work with Microsoft Project 2003, Project 7, and all the desktop project operations leverages the same engine behind the scenes, which means you're able to schedule on a realistic basis. No Excel behind doing all these manual calculations that is not really ensuring. All that project operations does is giving the project managers the ability to actually collect calendars, collect events, and even how much work each resource is able to execute, creating a visualization, not only on a timeline view or a grid view, but on a board view, allowing every project manager to identify those activities, detail these items, telling, for example, what is the timing, and using advanced scheduling capabilities, include very graphical visualization of the Gantt chart, allowing to full interact within the users. One of the very, I would say, requested features in the scheduling part was to have your own custom fields on an organization level. Tiago, is it possible to do that today? Do I need to do a lot of customization to make it appear? How is that possible? Can I have my own custom properties in the schedule grid?
Yeah, so that's a new feature Microsoft just delivered, which we were very much looking forward to it. But now, if you have custom fields on the task table in the Power Platform, you can now surface those inside of project operations. There's some data types limitations in there, but it really helps when we're customizing project operations to fit the customer process. We can now have more. We can tie more functionality to the schedule and really take advantage of these things. So it's really nice that they delivered this. And it would be using that add column button that we have in there, where we can bring these enterprise fields into the schedule.
And yeah, we've been waiting for this for so long. And As you can see on the demonstration, you can export this to a PDF file, to an Excel file, and share it offline with your colleagues or maybe externally. Another element for ensuring that you have a controlled project execution and really getting the grasp of your finances is the capability of project budget and forecast management. This is a feature that also been really widely used. Microsoft has allowed us to actually plan this on a time-phased capability, which means every month I can control the actuals, the forecast of my budget, maybe on quarters, and can be also configured according to your needs. The budgeting comes with a standard process of requesting approval flow within project operations, and it will allow every project management to have full control within their finances and their projects. It comes with native charts and graphs and also notifications when your budget is actually approved, even allowing for adding revisions of your budget, so if you need to make changes. So a cool feature here that I really like is actually you're able to import from a schedule and automatically generate your project budget. Very, very nice capability that will ensure full, I would say, adherence within your strategic project and portfolio management. Another part that is really making sure that your organization can collaborate in a much more powerful way is using the Microsoft Teams enhanced integration. And it will just make a lot easier for you to connect your projects within your team sites and groups. So maybe, Tiago, you can give some examples of how useful this can be if you are a team member or a user of a project. So you need to collaborate and you need to find that information. How do you see this actually on a day-to-day life? How can this help us be better and do more productivity tasks?
So this one is really nice. It's also building on the SharePoint integration that we had as part of Dynamics and the Power Platform, but taking it a step further, because now we can have a Teams chat regarding specific tasks that we might have, and also upload the files straight in and have them linked with the specific team that is created for the project that you've linked with the project. And it also lets you from Teams, which is your hub for doing all your day-to-day work, right? You don't need to remember, oh, I need to go into Dynamics to be able to see this. You can go into the team for the project. You have the schedule, you have the documents, you have the conversation that's happening on the project. Everything is in one place, so you get a lot of visibility there. And you also get some quality of life when doing your day-to-day work.
And I know you have prepared a surprise for the end of the session with a very cool, I will not say the name, and please don't say yet, please stick with us, and Tiago will show something inside Teams that will actually blow your mind. So let's hold it in, please. Let's wait for the right time, but Tiago has made something really cool for us for later. Another thing that we also need to take into consideration while executing our projects is actually understanding the work management part of it. And that means if you're using Azure DevOps as a tool to control your requirements and actually run the detailed activities, there is a way for us to actually integrate project operations within your project, within your projects in Azure DevOps. That will allow you to not only control every item, work item that you are building within your team on a day-to-day basis, and visualizing all of that within your project operation scenario. So what we see here to help your organization to really get more out of this is you don't need all the details in project operations. You basically need to understand what is the progress, what is the value, and then you can even build a lean business case in project operations connected to your Azure DevOps. Very, very lean and very easy for everyone to understand and roll this up to the portfolio level. Remember when we made the simulations and actually identifying the prioritizations? All activities you have inside DevOps can now be ranked and actually elevated and brought into your project operations scenario. So very, very powerful, very nice, even generation of a completely lean business case documentation directly from your project operations. It is possible. So we talk about the work management, and what about registering and providing progress within my tasks? How can I ensure that my projects are actually successfully being executed? Project operations comes with time registrations out of the box, completely linked to your projects with approval flows for the project managers. And most important, you can access either through your mobile phone or through Teams. I just saw yesterday, if you look at the Microsoft roadmap and release plan, there is a very nice new feature there, which is the new mobile experience for project operations in time registration. Take a look from our colleague Sebastian. He also has a session during the day, and it's really awesome post blog that he made yesterday. So kudos and credits to Sebastian on that. Okay, I built my business case. I have now build my schedule, I create my budget, I'm working on details inside Azure DevOps. I need resources to actually run my projects. How can I actually identify the resource requirements with my projects? Project operations come with a standard capability of identifying generic resources within your plan, because you don't know who is going to be executing that task yet. So you can, out of your project schedule, allocate those generic based on roles, maybe organization unit or resourcing unit, and then all the work associated within that activity will be created as a demand. So the next step that I will have to do here after I have collected that information is, do I have enough resources to run these activities? And that's where our PCF component also comes into play, where I can automatically convert those generic resources based on maybe skills that I need and find the right match within your pool of resources. So, Tiago, you probably have seen this before. You actually work together on building these capabilities. Can you tell us if we are building something externally, or are we using something built in project operations like URS? Maybe tell us a little bit behind how this works.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's something entirely new. It's just a interface that we built on top of URS. So we're taking advantage of what project operations delivers, what the universal resource scheduling module in Dynamics delivers, right, for planning, booking resources against requirements. So we're just trying to give a visual look and feel, and something that is closer to how the project managers and the line managers might work for requesting resources and delivering those resources. So it's just a different way to look at the data over here.
Does it work with standard Dynamics universal resource scheduling? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, so the schedule board should work, and then all the skills that you register to resources, if you extend the resources further with other metadata that your organization relies on, those still work behind the scenes. It's all URS. So you can still use all of those elements. And the benefit of using what Microsoft is delivering behind the scenes is we're still enabling anything Microsoft delivers with regards to AI, where they're using that data behind the scenes to suggest resources and all of that. That still works as well.
Fully agree, and thanks for highlighting that. So we are actually leveraging the way that you can control your resources with URS, Universal Resource Schedule from Dynamics, and now from the line managers or the resource managers, they have a full visualization of all their resources, their capacity with color coding, and they can fully edit and finding the right resource at the right time. So we are able to not only leverage the standard capabilities here, but providing the resource managers with an interface on top of URS that gives you this nice Excel or grid or matrix feeling and look and feel that you can directly edit and modify and optimize your resource management and capacity within your organization. So this is a crucial part for everyone trying to maximize their success within the organization, is to have control between their capacity, demand, and allocations. This is my hot tip of the day. You have to take a look at resource management, and this is a really, really cool feature. And How can I optimize those resources? How can I ensure allocations are done properly? Take a look at this, because now once I receive all the different requirements from the projects as generics, we are able to actually book the right people matching with their skills and their roles. We automatically can apply filters on demand and make sure that they have availability. Tiago, where is the availability is coming from? Is this like manually typed? Is something externally? Can you tell us how capacity is being calculated?
Sure. So that's one of the modules that URS has. On the resources, they have their calendar. They define, or we define how much a resource is hired to work and what holidays are present. If they've registered time off, it would all go into that calendar, and that impacts their availability. And then we have all the bookings made against them that will also reduce their availability. And then we can say if people are overbooked, underallocated, and if they need to find activities, basically.
Awesome.
Right, so.
And most important, once I have allocated or replaced that generic within the requirement coming from a project, it automatically adds the resource to the project team and replace directly on the schedule, on the tasks, allowing that resource to time register as you saw before. So really making sure everything is lean, connected, and integrated within the Dynamics 365 project operations. And like Tiago mentioned, you can actually already leverage by using this that I just previously showed, the Get Smart Suggestions feature directly in your project operations today. What that does, it will rank and identify some skill and score fit for all the resources you have, show a card looking at previous projects, and get suggestions for your resources. By using what we previously showed, the resource management with URS, you get full capabilities to leverage the smart suggestion resources in project operations. Great feature by the project operations team. We love that. It's really cool. Try it out. It's really making the difference. Okay, now I have teams. Everybody's working. They are time registering. So my portfolio is being evaluated, optimized. I'm just going to leverage some reports and BIs. Microsoft provides a set of templates that can be automatically applied to your project operations, and that will look at your program health, at your project execution, your portfolio, all tasks and capabilities. But Tiago, maybe you can tell me, is it possible for us to create our own reports and BIs on top of project operations data? How difficult is that? Is there a connector? Please tell us.
There's a couple of options. Out of the box, we have some Power BI reports that Microsoft delivered. We've also built our own expanding on it. Because the data is in Dataverse, we have options also connecting with Microsoft Fabric, where we can use Synapse link, get the information synchronized to a data lake, and then use more reporting centric tools like Power BI and other tools in Fabric to build these reports and connect with the rest of the organization systems. But yeah, we have Power BI templates to help you get started and help you understand the data model behind the scenes. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that's the point, is you were able to actually build your own reports on top of that. We are not focusing on the billing part today, on the project accounting as a detail, but more on the portfolio side. And you have to be sure that you have a lot of this information being visualized and transparent within your organization. So most of our profile step-by-step is now being completed. It is actually an easy way to see what each profile does, but let's take a look at some of the Copilot capabilities within Dynamics 365. So first, before Copilot starts, Tiago, I'd like to pass the word to you, and maybe you can tell us what is this new kid on the block called agents? Are agents fighting with Copilot, or please tell us a little bit more. What is this?
They're not fighting, they're working together. But yeah, so Copilot is what we've seen for a while. It's kind of there to help you answer questions. You can get some information, help you find the information that's relevant and really dig through all the data that you have. But then we have agents which are more specialized. So they know more about business processes. They can actually do things for you. We might have some agents that are responsive. So they see what is happening in the data, and then they give you a suggestion, something should happen. But you can also have an agent that will create a resource booking for you, or will register time your time for you. So they're able to interact with other systems and do things. So
question. I do have a question about the agents. So if I have like maybe, I don't know, 100 different agents, because as you said, those agents are very specialized on one specific thing. So they are not like big business process, but they are more, focused on one thing. Do I need to know all of them? How do they find each other? How we find the right agent?
So there it is a feature that is, I think it's in preview still, but there is a dynamic orchestration that Copilot can do behind the scenes. So you go creating different agents, and you describe what they're able to do and what data they need to do the things. And the Copilot tries to figure out and make these calls on your behalf, so you don't need to know all of them. But agents do surface, and they're specialized. You have your own different agents you can message on Teams as well.
So what you're saying is agents are autonomous. That is really cool. So they will find the right agent at the right time. That's really nice. I hope we have a demo of an agent later on. I don't know if this is going to happen, but let's see. So
we'll see.
It's not a fight, it's a marriage between Copilot and agents. And of course, we are looking forward to this new agentic era that we are actually living today. So it's really cool to see the progress and how these agents can modify and help us have a much, much productive way within our organization. Talking about the Copilot, we do have a standard within the Dynamics 365, some of those items, which are generation of status reports, generation of task plans, risk assessments. Even before we show them, Tiago, maybe you can tell how they are made. I don't know if you want to talk about that later, but is this something that can we actually create our own in this case, or is this locked by Microsoft?
Well, we can create our own using Copilot Studio, the designer for these Copilots that has some good integration with Dataverse and stuff. But Microsoft also delivers their own that have their actions behind the scenes and show up in the menu over there. Haven't tried to add my own into that menu yet.
Yeah, but we are going to see a little bit of how this Copilot, the standard ones, does. For example, generative AI status report. Tell me which organization does not want to have a standardized AI generated, fully accurately built on top of your projects. How does that work? I can just open my project plan, identify on the top the icon of Copilot, and just click generate. Could be an internal or external report. You're able to edit that specific report and even modify some of the graphical visualizations like the KPIs. And Microsoft is also announced previously that they're working on a way for you to modify this template so you can have your own components on the AI generated status report. Really, really cool. Not only allowing you to save on your project all those status reports, but also allowing you to actually visualize at any point in time or download it within your offline mode. Copilot for Dynamics 365 project operations also comes with generative AI for risk management, which means I can automatically bring all those risks to be generated with mitigation plans, with impact probability based on the project you're running and past activities within your portfolio. Very, very top and very, very important for your organization. I can say that a lot of the project managers I have seen, we do understand that risks are very important, but at the same time, it's a little bit difficult, time consuming to identify those risks, so it can be automatically generated for you. Closing here with a great example of Microsoft innovative way of bringing productivity to the hands of everyone is AI generated time entries. One more time, imagine you go to your project operations and you just say, I would like to maybe please create my weekly time entry for this week or past week. Copilot, behind the scenes, probably calling an agent, will identify and ask you questions. Do you want to create your time entries for this week? You can visualize what items are coming from the actual assignments you have and are supposed to work, and automatically fill out your entire time sheet, your entire time entries for that week. How amazing is that? How much time are we able to save by allowing Copilot to do their job and allowing AI to help us on this journey? There you go. All items are already in my time entries.
Yeah, for the day-to-day work where we need to register time quite a bit, this is really cool.
But you know what could be even more cool, Tiago? Is it possible for me to actually generate comments also from those time entries? And the answer is yes. So you can actually say, please generate my comments for my time entries of this week. It's supposed to go for an external or maybe internal purposes, and you can automatically. Copilot for project operations will actually look at all the data, the activities, the comments, what you did, combine and gather all that information for you and bring it to the hands of the user. So comments now are actually pre-drafted for you, added to your time entries on each cell that is required, and you can even modify them, you can evaluate them. And I just think this is just mind-blowing how productivity is just bringing us to a completely different level here with AI in our day-to-day work. So moving forward, if I look now, we have seen pretty much almost every component and all the items from a portfolio manager on the strategic and objectives of my organization, a resource manager trying to identify demand and capacity, balance both of those, project managers building their business cases, identifying their project plans, realistic planning a project, and at the same time building a solid budget, generating risks, automatically creating their status reports. Oh my God, I cannot hold myself because it's so much cool stuff that Copilot is bringing to our day-to-day work. And we have to remember, we are now belonging on the Microsoft Cloud, where Dynamics 365, it is part of our Power Platform. And of course, Tiago can tell a little bit more about this and how Power Platform Dynamics and those PCF components or every component work with each other. So I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit, Tiago. Please explain to us how this actually works and what is the benefits for organizations to use the Dynamics 365 platform on top of some of these custom-made components.
Yeah, so it's a really powerful platform, right? We have Power Automate that really lets us get data and automate things. Doesn't really matter in which system it is, right? You can have it go to SAP. You can have it go to another system that might be in another cloud, even outside of the Microsoft, as long as they have an API or they have a way we can connect to it, we can get the data out and bring it in to the platform or even send the data there. Power Apps is really flexible for us to customize the day-to-day processes if we want and get metadata, really put up the data all in one place that we can then report out of it using Power BI. And now with Copilot Studio, we can build these co-pilots or agents to help do stuff that Microsoft hasn't thought of, but we can then build it and extend the platform. So we have a user interface there with the model-driven apps, the Canvas apps, and I think Copilot is a very nice additional user interface that we interact with the data. Then we can automate things with the Power Automate flows. Old school Dynamics people are familiar with the plugins, and we have a newer version of plugins coming out. We can use Azure services behind the scenes also if we need. And then we have the data layer, right, where everything we have for the organization is in there. And we can manage it. And the more we have the data in a structured way or in an accessible way for systems, the more we can build on that and add value to the organization. And all the products in Dynamics, basically, they're built on this platform. Also, Project for the Web or Planner Premium, the customer engagement products, sales, service, field service, everything is in there. So they just build on each other, and it's a multiplier effect, basically.
That's really awesome. And maybe you can tell us a little bit of one way to extend and leverage AI and make your own, I would say, processes or your own tasks out of the capabilities that we can actually take from Azure OpenAI or any other AI. Please explain to us what is Fellow-Mind Synergy AI.
Yeah, so this is, for example, when OpenAI services came into Azure, we started playing with it and see, okay, what can we do to add into the project, right? So we added a button to the form, which we can do with just straight from the UI in the Power Platform, and there's another tool also we can use, but we created the button. We made some flows that go into Azure OpenAI. We had it deployed over there with the large language model we wanted. We collected some information from the environment, and we can send that request and say, hey, give me some schedule information, or propose a schedule for this project with the metadata we have, right? And then with that information, we can use the APIs and create the tasks for people.
That's so nice.
Yeah, that's one example, right? And yeah, then we have a demo video.
Yeah, and as you said, this is just the beginning of how we can extend and ensure you can prioritize your portfolio, identify resource demand. And in this example, as you mentioned, we are able to actually custom tailor how AI will react. For example, I would like to create my project plan, but I would like to have specific items using my budget as a reference and other fields. And there we go. It will tailor generate that information based on AI generative capabilities and deliver in the hands of the user. Very, very powerful. And Tiago, I think you have something really special for us to show. It's a surprise. And please, I will hand over to you and please demonstrate to us what you brought today.
Sure. So this is an agent I made, probably took less than a day to make it. So it's pretty basic, but this is a Copilot Studio where I created the resource agent. I connected to the booking table and the bookable resource table, so it would know about the data we have in the organization. I created a My Bookings topic, so I can say, hey, what are my bookings? And using that information, it would be able to answer the question or some questions about my bookings. I added it to Teams as a channel. And then I can open it up and say, hey, what are my bookings? I have a hint there of questions I can ask. And then it goes into the booking table. I had to teach it what ID I have in the system. That was a Power Automate flow. But then it's able to do the query and get information about my bookings and display it as a table. Or not as a table here, but then I have the list when the bookings are starting, when they end, and what projects. And then it also has a reference, oh, I got this information out of this table in Dataverse, right?
Wow.
So it's a simple example, but it's really easy to build using the tools that we have.
That's really cool, Tiago. And this will work like for everyone, but does the agent know who am I? So if I'm a portfolio manager and I need an agent to actually help me prioritize my portfolio, tell me which projects are critical or which projects have higher return of investment, can we build something like that?
Yeah, we can connect to the data source. It interacts to the data using your permissions. So it's able to see things that you're able to see and that kind of thing. So we can have it answer more questions about the data.
So cool.
If we need
Thank you so much for bringing that special case in the end. So showing how agents is going to be part of our day-to-day work and even making a real case with connection with resource management. I love it. Thank you so much. I think with that, our time is almost ticking. First of all, thank you to all of you who actually attended this event. We loved the Dynamics 365 event. It's awesome. It has been a show, a lot of nice sessions. We have great keynotes. We are looking forward to the next year. And of course, if you have any questions, just leave them on the chat and we will actually help you and answer as much as possible. Our contacts will probably be on the website. You can find us on LinkedIn, anywhere. And again, we all love project operations. Even better when you can actually maximize the success of your projects, combining with AI and so forth. All cool. I hope all of you learned something today. If not, tell us what you'd like to see and we are going to prepare something for later. It was awesome to present here. Thanks to the organizers. And I think I would like to close that I imagine ourselves as this random person, just trying to find the promised land. And basically we have all these tools. We have Copilot, Microsoft, all of that. And we're still a little bit lost. But day after day, every time we are learning something new and finding new ways to improve our day-to-day work. Thank you, all of you again. Thank you to the organizers and the sponsors of the event. I wish you guys a great rest of the event and looking forward for the next year. Bye-bye, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Wow. So huge round of applause, everyone, for Allan and Tiago. What a session. So Allan and Tiago have been answering questions. They've been online and answering questions. I needed a coffee before, but now I don't. After that session, it really, really did energize me. And it actually answered a lot of the outstanding questions that were left over from today. A lot of the questions you had regarding Copilot, regarding DevOps, a lot of the feature gaps, a lot of those questions were answered. So well done, Allan. Well done, Tiago, for actually showing Copilot in action, right? Actually showing it working. So thank you so much. Looking at the questions and answers, let's have a quick look because I know Hugo's got a question more related towards. Oh, right, okay. So it looks as though there are some answers in there already. Tiago has already answered the questions in the chat as well. So it looks as though most of the questions have been answered, guys. Let's have a look to see if Tiago or Allan have some final words to say. If not, we can. I know that they're busy answering a lot of your questions in the chat. But Allan and Tiago, if you want to share your contact details, please feel free to do so in the chat as well. There you go. We've got Allan. Hey, Allan.
Hello, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, Russ. And great event. And apologies for I posted some of the screenshots to enrich a little bit more of the demos. And so I hope everybody got a little bit. And thanks to everyone for this great event. Okay.
Wow, no, thank you for the energy and for all this information you've just overloaded us with. I think we should call you the overlord, because honestly, it's been amazing. I feel like I can go on for another 8 hours now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, you've done a fantastic job. You've actually answered a lot of the common thread of questions that have been asked throughout the day, such as with DevOps integration, Copilot, and a lot of the feature gaps which people have been asking about. You've actually addressed them all in your session.
Yeah.
So huge thanks for doing that. And do you have any final comments or any like announcements you want to make before we wrap up onto the final session of the day?
Basically, I will continue answering the questions on the Q&A and just thank you to everyone. I don't want to take any minute for the next session. It's just a big thanks to everyone. I hope Tiago also thinks the same. So thanks, guys, for this amazing event. Okay, thanks.
Allan, I've got one more favor.
Yeah.
Could you drop in you have a podcast? Could you drop in the link your podcast.
It's on my
in the chat,
LinkedIn.
please?
I'll put on my LinkedIn here, and it's basically tips about anything else. So I will place it there, and then feel free to join and watch everyone. Okay. Thanks, Ras, for reminding me.
Excellent. Thank you, Allan. Thank you, Tiago.
Bye, guys.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, guys, just the sessions keep on getting better and better, right? So we're on to our last session of the day. And you are in for a good treat as well. And it's with none other than Microsoft Saurabh, okay? So Saurabh is online. Hello there, Saurabh.
Hey Raj, how are you doing?
Hey, Saurabh, excellent. So you're the final treat of the day. So Saurabh, we obviously won't delay any further. Whilst you share your screen and get ready for your presentation, I just want to let everyone know that obviously Saurabh is part of the Microsoft engineering team. He's doing lots of great work. I had a chance to witness him just a few weeks ago, actually, in Denmark, where he presented on a similar topic in relation to project operations, and it was really, really, really beneficial, because often many people get confused around how transactions are processed from project operations, and Saurabh did a fantastic job of demystifying all of that and made it really easy to understand. So Saurabh, thank you so much for giving this session today, and without further ado, over to you.
Thank you, Raj, and thank you for having me here. And I'll try to keep up the energy which Allan had. I'm sure, like, I won't be able to match that, but I'll try to do some match there. So hope you can see my screen now. Okay, great. Okay, so let's start with the quick introduction about me. As Raj said, that I'm the senior fast track solution architect at Microsoft, and I've been on the partner side as well. Earlier, been the MVP for some time, and then joined Microsoft fast track team. Today, we are going to talk about, few of the key things in the project operations, the non-stock scenarios, where we'll be touching upon the contract management and the project execution excellence, because all the things which we are talking about, the Copilot AI or the planning and everything, like all these things needs to based and we need to understand that how these things fall into place as transactions, and to get those transactions in place, how do you model your contract, because that is very key aspect of your project definition in project operations. So if I move further, talking about the agenda for today, so we'll talk about touch upon the basics of like how what's project contract and line looks like, how as a concept in project operations. We'll talk about the modeling of project contracts, and which is very key to understand. We will talk about different scenarios here. We'll touch upon pricing dimensions and the pricing strategy which you can have on those project contracts. And then we will move and switch gears that once you have your contract and pricing set up, and once you start executing your project, how your business transactions gets created, and understanding those different business transactions here. And in the end, I will, the earlier sessions, we have spoken about different Copilot and AI features, but I have just summarized a listing of the Copilot and AI features which we have as part of the project operations. So let's start with understanding the modeling, understanding the concept of the project contract. So when we talk about the project contract in project operations, it has got several components and several terminologies to understand. And one of the key thing we need to understand is the owning company when we set up the project contract. So Think of this as a legal entity which is responsible for tracking the cost and revenue which are tied to the project. So for example, if you're working for a global consulting firm that operates in different countries, then owning company will represent the company entities, the specific entity that handles all your financial transactions related to that project. The next thing which we need to understand as a concept and the in the product contract is the contracting unit and also called as organizational unit. And this refers to the different divisions and departments like within your company. For instance, if your company has both IT consulting and the HR services, the cost of possibly a filling role in the IT might different from the filling a role in the HR due to varying cost structure. Now, by defining these units, you can ensure that each division cost rates are tracked separately. But keep in mind, we are talking about the project operations non-stock scenario where you have the finance and operation for managing your financials and the project side on the CE side. So, but keep in mind that organization unit which we are talking here is not a Dynamics 365 finance organization structure or the unit which we create there. The next thing which is very key before we start creating and defining or modeling our project contract is the currency and the price list which we have. So we need to understand there are different currencies we need to set up. One is your cost currency. The cost currency is in which the project costs are tracked. For example, if you're working in a project in UK and your cost might report it in GBP, even if your company's headquarter is possibly in let's say US or different country. And the sales currency is in which you record your revenue, where you track your revenue from that particular project. And the price list is that how do you define your pricing for your cost, for your sales. And there is another thing which we need to define, the pricing is for the purchase side as well. The next thing which we need to have it in our mind is about the billing method. Now, there are typically two main models, the fixed fee and the time and material. Also, you can say the consumption based. With the fixed fee, you agree on a set of price for the project, no matter how much time or resource you have spent. But the time and material, the client is billed based on the time worked and possibly the resources which has been consumed. And think of it like a consulting project where you are charged by the hour and by the resource consumed on the project. And then you have one of the critical component, which is your transaction class. And in project operations, you have four types of transaction class, which is your time, expense, material, and fee. And all these things represent, like time represents your billable hours, the expense reverse the costs like a travel, a hotel, and other costs related to the project. The material is again some of the goods which you consumed as part of project, and the fees, revenue only transactions. So the transaction class also is one of the important concept in while we start setting up the contract in project operations. And last one, which I would like to call out here, is the invoice schedule. So, I mean, these defines when and how much you will invoice for each contract line when you set up, and it's like setting up a payment plan with your customer. And if you have agreed to bill in stages, say that 50% upfront and 50% at the product completion, or different milestone when you define it. So before even you go and start creating your project contract in the project operations, it is good to understand these different concepts as part of project contract. Now, when we create the project contract in the project operations, typically it has got the contract structure where you have the header, and the header has got the line and the line details. So the header has got your, let's say, the high level information about the customer and currency information, and at the line level you can define that what are the different the deliverables you have for that project contract, and then you can have the project and other information, and then you have the line details further defining the cost part and the sales part of for delivering those contract lines which you have defined there. So with this, let's move and understand another key feature in project operation that helps you to manage the projects and the billing is the ability to map the specific tasks to the contract line. And this is important because it directly ties the work being done in a project to how and when you will you bill your client. So there are two different options which you have here. So task-based billing is something where, let's say, if you have got a project contract line, and then that project contract line has got associated work breakdown structure, and that work breakdown structure has, let's say, different phases. Now, in that, sometimes it is possible that you would like to just include a specific list of tasks or a specific phase for the billing, but you do not want to include the rest of the task or the phases of that work breakdown structure for the billing. So the task-based billing allows you to select a specific and choose the specific task which you would like to apply on your contract line, rather than having the entire project work breakdown structure applicable and available for the billing. So it is a very good feature which you have on the project contract lines. Now, once we define these things, let's understand a few of the scenarios when we talk about the modeling the project contract in the project operations. So here are some of the scenarios which are like typically as a project manager, or when we are creating the configuring the project operations, we might come across. So if we think from the project management and accounting perspective, most of these scenarios would require your sub-project concepts to be implemented. But the beauty of this system is to its flexibility to allowing you to define exactly like what to bill, who to bill, and when to bill, all the way down to the task level, without having the sub project concept in project operation. So now think about these scenario, and let's pick up a few of the scenarios from this particular list. Now, if you look at the first scenario, which is the time on the project on a project is fixed fee, while the expenses are time and material. So imagine you have a project where you say that the time which we will be booked on the project will be a fixed fee. So let's say you are running a Dynamics 365 implementation, and you say that the consulting fee will be your fixed price, but the expenses for the consultants to travel to the customer's site and the customer location will be based on the time and material. Now, how do you manage this, right? So these are the two different expense classes which you have here. So what you can do, you can use the transaction class applicability at a project contract line level, where you say that, okay, for the first project contract line, I have just the fee transactions applicable, but for the second project contract line for the same project, I want to have the different the transaction class, which is my expense, and then I can set up a billing method on that the first one will be based on the fixed fee, and the second one will be based on my the time and material. So by doing this, you will be able to achieve this scenario, and you will be able to model your contract without having and creating different projects in the system. Now, if you talk about the next scenario, like some part of the work on the project is time and material, and another part of the work needs to be fixed fee. So again, it can be the, let's say you have one breakdown structure, work breakdown structure defined, and you can say that, okay, my pre-sales can be a type of time and material, and the another the rest of the things can be my fixed fee. So you can create two distinct nodes on your work breakdown structure, and you can use the task based billing and map that, okay, this particular node of the work breakdown structure will be time and material, and then the second line on the project contract where you can say that, okay, this particular node will be the fixed fee, and you can utilize the same project and same work breakdown structure for modeling your contract. Now, another one possibly we can look at is the scenario 4, where the project work is distinctly divided between teams, with each team being managed by, let's say, two different project managers, and the teams should secure the access only to their part of the work. Now, what you can do that you can have a one contract created, but you can have two different projects created, and you can associate both the projects to different lines on the project contract lines there, and then you map your respective project with their activities and the task which you have defined. And by doing this, what you are doing is that you are giving the access to a specific project to one project manager, and another project is having the access, other project manager is having the access to another project, but your reporting is under the same umbrella, which is a single contract. So you can achieve this scenario with this particular thing. Another thing which you can have is, let's talk about the second last, which we have different customers paying for different components of the work. So let's say you have a huge project where you have a big ground structure for a project, and let's say one set of the work is being paid by one customer, and another set is paid by another customer. Now, in the product contract line details, you also have the option that this particular set of work will be paid by which customer. So you can even model the different customers, like who are going to pay for that particular contract line. And that is where you have got this flexibility of defining your or modeling your project contracts and the contract line in a more efficient way to achieve these different scenarios. And here are a few examples which we are seeing on the screen that can be in real life. You might have a lot of other scenarios which are applicable and which are there in your projects. Now, if I move further, the next thing, once let's say we have defined and we have understood how what are the components we have for the contract, then we also decided that how we are going to model them. The next thing which we have is on the project contract is to understand the pricing dimension concept. So let's talk about the pricing dimension. So this features helps you to define the flexible cost and the sales prices based on the different attributes, which is like roles, the resource categories, the organization unit, and the pricing dimension gives you the control to tailor your pricing strategy to fit different project requirements. So for example, you can have different prices for a consultant versus the project manager based on the role or the resource category. Now, where do you define this pricing dimension? So this is available in your project operations parameters. And then if you see that you have the amount-based pricing dimensions, and here you also have And these are the different dimensions which are available for you, and then you can choose what you want to use. And then also you can choose for which type of pricing you want to use these dimensions. So if you want to use the resource category, which is applicable to the cost, but let's say not applicable to purchase or not applicable to the sales, right? So you can choose that, okay, I want to define my cost pricing based on this particular dimensions, and then you can have, let's say, bookable resource for your purchase and which is applicable for the sales. So you can enable your pricing dimensions with the applicability of different types of the pricing which you have. Apart from that, you also have got another thing which is about the priority. So let's say at some point of time you have a conflict where you have the multiple pricing for the same combination in the system, then you can also define the priority that, okay, this particular dimension will take the priority based over this other particular other dimension which I have defined if there is a conflict. So you can define your priority for each of the cost type, like a cost priority, the purchase and the sales. So the pricing dimension is really, really a very important and the key and the powerful tool for defining or enabling your pricing strategy while you setting up your product contract in product operations. Now, one of the thing, like when setting up the pricing dimension in product operations, it's important to be very mindful for not overcomplicating the things. So while creating new pricing dimension in the system, it may seems to be very easy. It can quickly become a challenging to manage and understand the pricing at such a granular level. So unless there is a very specific business requirement, it's often best to avoid creating custom dimensions and instead leveraging the dimensions which are existing out of the box in the system. One of the example is like many organizations, specifically a smaller one, may only need the price based on the actual resource. And in such case, you can just keep it simple by adding a new amount-based pricing dimension like a bookable resource dimension. And this allows you to price directly based on the resource being booked without the need of detail on any other dimension. Uh, uh, for the larger organization, let's say that have a multiple divisions or wants to price based on the roles differently across different divisions, then the resourcing company pricing dimension is can be a great tool for them. So if you want to charge a developer role differently based on whether the employees from engineering department or or the sales division, you can use the dimensions there. So it is very important for us to understand the pricing structure before setting up any pricing dimension. It's crucial to understand how your resources, expenses are priced, and many project-based companies work with the employees or the consultant from different legal entities, division. So it's important to know how the pricing will vary across these different entities. Now, there will be cases where the out-of-the-box pricing dimensions, they don't meet the requirement the company has specific needs. And in these cases, the custom pricing dimensions may necessarily be your option. So you can create your custom dimensions. And one of the example which you see on your screen, let's say you have a single role, and then you want to have the pricing based on, let's say, the same role, if it is local or on-site. And then also if that person is working overtime locally, then it will be 15% on top of it. But if it is working on-site, it will be 20%. So such scenarios, you can go for creating the custom solutions, custom pricing dimensions for that. And I put the link here, which where there is a Microsoft Learn option, the portal there, where it has been explained how do you define these things. Now, if I move to the next one, so now we have understood how your the project contract works, the different scenarios for modeling, the pricing strategy which you can apply to your project contract. Now it is very much important for us to understand the price list. So the price list in project operation represents the catalog of the rates, which can either be the cost rates or the bill rates, or it can be the transfer pricing based on how the pricing dimensions are configured. Now, if we look at this screen, so we have three different major pricing type, and which is also called as the context. If you see on your screen, the context, which is like you have the sales for your billing your customer, the cost for recognizing the cost for this, and then you also have the another type which is called as purchase, which can be for, let's say, if you are using the subcontracting in the project operation, so you would like to set up your purchase prices for that. So that is where you need to define your price list, and you can associate your price list with your contract and execute them. Now, with this, we have covered kind of a contract modeling with along with the pricing. Now, once you have all these things done, your project is configured. And in the previous session, we have also seen that we have the resources and everything done. Now our project is ready to get executed and start posting your transaction and start executing the transactions in the project. Now, when we execute our project, it is very much important for us to understand the transactions which are getting created as part of those activities and how it is going to impact to our financials when it is getting sync with our finance side of the thing. So from dataverse to finance, how it is going to be linked. So let's start with understanding the business transactions. So in project operations, the business transactions are the foundation for your financial tracking. And while they are not very correct, aren't represented by a very specific entity, but there are these five key entities where you can think like these five entities create your business transactions. So you have the entity quote line details, the contract line details, estimate line details, and then journal lines and the actuals. Now, these entities we can divide into two project phases. So the first three entities are getting impacted and represents the financial forecast, and these are mostly impacted from your estimate phase of the project. But since now here we are talking about the project execution phase, so which means the journal line and the actuals are the business transactions entity which represents your financial facts and which are used for your financial tracking. So these are the two key entities which we need to look into when we talk about the execution of the project. Now, when we talk about these two entities, there are four key concepts. Again, we need to understand which are your transaction type, which are defines the timing and the context of your financial impact. So, for example, you have the billed sales, unbilled sales, the cost. All these things are your transaction type. And then you have got the transaction class, which categorize the different transactions like time, the expense type, the material, and the fee. All these things are your transaction class. And then we have got the transaction origin and the transaction connection entities. And these entities stores the origin of each business transactions, and it also helps us in providing the traceability. And we want to talk about these two because these are very, very important for us to understand the impact, and also the it is going to help us in our business reporting when we talk about the project business transactions. So let's start with understanding the transactions with like different transaction class. So which is your time, expense, and material, how it gets executed. So on your screen, what you see is a simple flow of your time entry in your project operations. So when we talk about time entry, how it works, so you start with submitting the time entry. It gets submitted, and the moment it gets submitted, what you have is the journal line created. And now here you need to look back and think about the previous slide, which I was talking about. These two entities, the journal line and the actuals, you need to relate here. So once the time entry is submitted, your journal lines are created, and that is where you have the first impact of your actual project, actual transactions in one of the entity in the execution phase. Now, once this project, the journal line is created, you might have a workflow where you define whether it's a project work or it's a non-project work, and then it goes through the approval process based on your workflow, and then this gets approved and your actuals gets created. So if the journal line which has been submitted has been approved, then your another entity transactions, actual transaction gets created with your this one. But what if it gets rejected? Then the line, the entity, the record which got created, what business transaction which got created in this entity, that gets removed because that got rejected here. But there is also possible that your transactions, once it is approved, it can also be recalled or it can be cancelled. So if the actuals which is created at this approved status, now if it has got recalled or it is got cancelled, then it also get reversed here. So in the time entry process, if we look at where my actual business transactions are getting created as part of those two those two entities, is one is here where the journal line is created, and one is here when the actuals data entity, the business transaction is getting created. Now, if we follow up the same thing for the expense and the material, the same process flow, user creates the transaction, submits to the approval workflow. So the first time when you submit, against the journal line gets created, and then if it gets approved, your actual gets created, and then if there are reversals or the rejections, then it gets removed. So this is how your those two entities, the journal line and the actuals, have the business transaction impact in based on your different transaction class which you have in your project operations, which are your time, expense, and material. Now, the next key thing which we need to understand, and it might look very the complex, but I'll try to make it simple to make you to explain you. So next thing is to understand the actuals which gets created in the transaction origin concept. So transaction origin is an entity that stores the origin of each business transactions to help with reporting and the traceability. So basically how each transaction gets originated is defined or is being tracked in the transaction origin entity. As product execution begins, each business transaction creates another business transaction that will in turn create another business transaction, and so on. So the transaction origin records are created to link actions to their sources, such as your time entries, expense entries, the material uses, and the invoices as well. So now here, if you see, it's an example of your time entry with different states. So when you create the time entry, you have the draft state, submitted, approved, and then once that transaction is being approved, it gets converted into it is eligible for your invoicing, and then invoicing is confirmed, and then possibly if you have some changes and the corrections in the invoices, then there is another state of this. But this is where you see here when the time entry is being submitted, then your journal line gets created, and then that journal line results into your actual cost. So which business transaction, this journal line business transaction, is getting, or this actual cost business transaction is getting resulted because of this business transaction. That is what is the link which you get, the traceability which you get in the transaction origin entity. And same goes with your other transactions. So your unbilled transactions, or when you have, let's say, the invoice created, each and every business transaction has got the link to the original transaction because of which it has got created. So that is what is the transaction origin, and it is very important for us to understand from the reporting and the traceability perspective. Then you have got the next entity, which is your transaction connection, and maybe it looks a bit of a simplified version of what we saw in the last slide. And the transaction connection is an entity that stores the relation between two similar business transactions, such as the cost and the related actual sales or the transaction reversal that are triggered by billing activities, such as the invoice confirmation or the corrections. So together, the transaction origin and the transaction connection entities help you to track the relationship between the different business transactions and actions that cause a specific business transaction to be created. So here, if you see, you have the journal lines, then you got the actual cost created. Now this actual cost has got a related transactions here, which is your unbilled sales. Now this unbilled sales is being utilized and used in your, when you go to your billing stage, and when the invoice is confirmed, that this unbilled sales get reversed and your actual billed sales is created, right? So how your unbilled sales is getting reversed and getting converted into your billed sales is your complete transaction connection, which you can see here. And that is what is being stored as part of your actual entity, where the transaction connection is stored here. So I hope this helps you to understand the business transaction concepts and the different core concepts in those entities, the journal line and the actuals, how important they are for different purpose and from the reporting to the traceability perspective. Now, if we talk about how these transactions, so we are talking about the non-stock project operation scenario, which means that you have the data was part and then you have the finance and operations part here. So which means how your actuals get sync between the dataverse and the FNO through the different entities is displayed here. So in the dataverse, we have the time transactions, which we talked about, expense, and the material transactions, which we talked about. Now these transactions get synced with your finance and operations. So it is stored in the actuals through the dataverse. It goes to your actual staging table in your finance and operations, and then it creates your integration journal, and then it creates your project transactions, which has got your financial attributes like vouchers, the tax amount, and the exchange rate, and other attributes which you have it here. Similarly, for the expense, so that was about your actuals of your time and expense, material, all those things. But in case of the expense, you also have the possibility that expenses can be initiated in the finance and operations. So if these are getting initiated in the finance and operations, it moves to your dataverse first as an expense transaction, and which gets converted into your actual transactions in the dataverse. And then again, it follows the same route, which we just now saw for the other actual transactions there. From the expense report perspective, another key thing which you need to have a sync between the dataverse and the finance and operation is about the transaction categories and the expense categories, because those are the base for you to process your expense reports. Now, you also can have the vendor invoices. So vendor invoices can be for your material uses, and also it can be your it can be your subcontracting vendor invoices. So you have the vendor invoices created in finance and operations. So if you are aware about the finance and operations, the pending vendor invoice in the under the accounts payable in section, you have the vendor invoices, which again comes first to the data warehouse, gets approved and gets converted into your actuals. And then again, it follows the same path as other actual transaction into staging to the integration journal to the project transactions, and it has the financial attributes available here. Now, another thing which is now in the recent features which got released, these invoices which were there for the subcontractings generally was supposed to be manually approved by the project manager. Now you have the feature where it can move without the project manager approval. You can automate them. Also, you can have the purchase orders now for the subcontracting in the recent features which were released last year. So you can have a kind of a three-way matching for your subcontracting, where you can match with your actual contract, subcontract to your submitted time by the subcontract resource with the bill which has been submitted by the supplier, vendor, the subcontracting supplier. Now, all the transactions which we have spoken till now, these transactions are mostly on the cost side, or which cause your actuals in for the project. So we talked about time, expense, and the material, the actual transactions which gets created. But now, once these transactions are posted and gets created, now, the next thing which you have is the revenue side of the thing, where you need to generate the project invoices. Now, on your screen, what you see is the kind of a high level flow of your project invoice for the non-stock scenario, where let's say when we start with the invoicing process, now there are a couple of things which we need to have as a prerequisite. And what are those things? So first thing is that you need to have your different project transactions which got posted as part of this project. So these transactions can be the time entries, the expense, the material logs, and all these things. You also possibly have the advance and the retainers for the project contract, which you might want to consider for your invoicing when you initiate this. Apart from that, if you have a fixed price based the project contract line, you want to review your project contract milestone. So there are different factors which you need to consider before you initiate your project invoice, and it is for different types of the project. So if you are having the fixed price, you might look for the milestone. If you have the time and material, you look for the project actual transactions which are posted. You also might look for the advances and the retainers. And once you have all these things ready for you, and you know that what needs to be billed to the customer, then you mark those transactions or those milestones as the ready for invoices, and that creates your basically a pro forma invoice in the project. Now, once the project pro forma invoice is created, now this pro forma invoice, you have an option, or the project manager has an option to review this and adjust this. So let's say you have the time transactions posted as part of your actuals, and system has proposed that as part of pro forma invoice, and you want to possibly adjust the number of hours which needs to be billed, or you add or remove something there. You can do that review process, and then you can recalculate and confirm the pro forma invoice in the Dataverse, in the C side of this thing. And once that is done, what it is going to do is that it is going to sync to the the finance and operation side, and it is going to create the invoice proposal. And that invoice proposal, which gets created on the finance and operation side, it will be a header transactions, you can say, and there will not be any lines which will be created as part of this. And the reason for that is simple, because those lines comes from your project transactions, which got posted as part of your actuals. And then what you need to do once that is done, you need to make sure that you have the staging table on the integration journal posted for the all the transactions which you are considering as part of that invoice, and that will populate your lines for that project invoices. And once that is done, you can review that information and you can post that invoice. And once that is done, then you can, that invoice can be sent out to your customer through different modes. Like if you have configured the business document through email and or any mode which you have it, it can send out from the system itself. So that is how your end-to-end the project invoice process looks like, and that is also another type of the actual project actual transaction which you have in the system. Now, if we talk about after this the process, that how the logical flow, like what I was talking just now, like you will have the header created and your lines will be created, how this looks from the data was in the finance and operations perspective, right? So, so you have your time entry, expense entries, which gets created into journal lines, gets converted to your project actuals. That is what we just spoke about, the business transactions and the entities. Now you have, let's say, billing milestone, which are ready to invoice, which creates your invoice header, then lines and the line details, which are coming from your project actuals here, which gets created. Now these project actuals get synced to your finance and operations through the integration journal and post your project transactions. So which means all the time entry, the expense entries, which are supposed to be part of that, are available as part of project transactions. And when you push this performa invoice here, the header gets posted and your lines gets also created, and that makes your final invoice for your customer, for your project to be posted. And this is how your the kind of the entity view between the data was the same, the technical view looks like between the data was and the finance and operations. So in the data was, you have the invoice header, the invoice line and details, which gets created from your actuals. Those that gets synced with your actual staging transactions. And then you have the project proposal header and the lines, and that's how it gets synced with your financials. And that's what we are looking from the execution perspective, to recognize the revenue correctly for our project which we have created. Now, so we talked about the contract, the pricing strategy, and then how we execute those contracts, the project transactions, the different transaction class. We talked about the different business transactions which we have as part of that, and also talked about the project invoices and how all those different types of business transactions gets sync with your finance and operations and gets converted into your actual finance transactions. Now, in the end, which I wanted to talk about just very high level, I'm sure we have seen in different sessions these different features has been called out about the Copilot and AI features which we have as part of the Microsoft releases. So one other thing which you have is the Expense mobile app, where you have the OCR capabilities, where you can just scan your receipts, and then that creates the expense report, and then you can submit to the mobile, and then it is available in your system for the processing. The another key thing and very major thing which is coming from the Microsoft is the time in the agents which are there. as part of all the different the apps which we have in the product ecosystem. But for the project operations, we are going to have the time and expense agent, which automatically like creates your time and expense recommendations, and it is like error-free and timely client invoicing, and it minimize your revenue leakage, because many times it happens if you do not have the timely submitted your timesheets or your expenses, and you have, let's say, the milestone coming for your project, and or also or for the fixed price the time and material project, you might miss out those actuals in the billing, and that impacts your revenue. But if you have the time and expense agent, which helps you in automatically creating and making the process more efficient, then definitely you will minimize this revenue leakage. Then you have certain other Copilot features for the project manager persona which are available. One is that generating the project plan using the Copilot based on the generative AI. You can just put up a kind of a description, and the project manager can generate a work breakdown structure, the project plan. And then the project manager can take that as a base and make the required changes in that and take it from there, and it saves a lot of time for the project managers. Another key feature which you have as part of the Copilot is your generating the status reports. So we know that every project manager has the responsibility to share the project status report periodically, and that covers your different like progress of the project, the budgets, the schedule tracking, and all those things. Now, the Copilot can help you in generating those status report for the project manager. And again, it is going to save a lot of time for the project manager. And of course, these things are generated by Copilot, where the project manager can still adjust and make the changes if required. Another feature which you have already released is the issue and the risk using the Copilot. So the project manager can generate the risk and issue tracker for the project, and that can and then amend this as if required. And that again can help the project manager to keep the eye on the project and see that if there are issues and then the risks are there, and then prepare a mitigation plan for that on a proactive basis. So I would suggest, like, apart from all the features and the things which we have talked about, these are the some new and the Copilot and AI features which definitely going to help the project manager in bringing more efficiency in their day-to-day task. And that brings to the end of my session. And thank you, and then open for any questions you have for me. Oh, you are on mute, Raj.
Fantastic, Saurabh. Wow. A round of applause for Saurabh, everyone. And there are a few questions in the chat. So the first question is, what is a writing product, and can we use stock item in this deployment?
Yeah, so I mean the stock items you can't use in this deployment, because, like as the name says, like it's a kind of a non-stock deployment, where so if you set up a product in your product release product in the finance and operation, that has to be the non-stock. If I go in a very technically in the item model group, you need to select this as a non-stock only. So, and that is only supported in that. And writing products are your the kind of a material usage which you use in the non-stock product you can say for your project to be used there.
And the next question is, can Project Ops support multi-reporting currency and within a single instance?
No, I don't think so, because all your financials transactions. So it is not about the project operations. It is about your the financials getting in your finance and operations. So in the finance and operation, you can have only one reporting currency and one accounting currency as of now, which you configure there. But definitely, I think if it is about the reporting, I think there are a lot of reporting solutions which are available, which you can explore apart from the core reporting solutions we have in Dynamics.
Right. Okay, Saurabh, I can't see any other questions. So we'll wait another minute or so before any questions. But Saurabh, I just want to say, obviously, thank you very much because obviously covering project ops non-stop, what you've covered, the transactions and the modeling, the transaction models that we can implement, certain patterns that you mentioned to address certain scenarios. That's really, really helpful, especially to most project ops consultants who are lacking in visibility, or customers that might be lacking in visibility into exactly what's happening under the hood with these records, with these actual records and these work breakdown structures and contracts. So what you've done is you've demystified that, and it really does help when it comes to an implementation and design considerations. So that's been really, really helpful. And it's a great way to wrap up today's bootcamp as well, Saurabh. So Saurabh is sharing his contact details. Remember, Saurabh does work for the Microsoft Fast Track team, guys. And I personally have attended many of his sessions, and you're doing a fantastic job in the space, Saurabh. You really are. You're really helping to address a lot of the kind of the knowledge gaps and some of the engineering considerations when it comes to a non-stock scenario where you've got a CRM and an ERP and understanding the data flow. You really have helped to resolve a lot of those queries. So you've got a YouTube channel as well, right, Saurabh?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is there for I think it has been for more than a year now. So yeah, I mean, I'll put the link in the chat. Like, so if anyone is interested, they can connect me over LinkedIn, and also look at my YouTube channel or the blog site if that helps you.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Read my mind. So once again, thank you, Saurabh, but also thank you all the speakers who joined us today. Most of you obviously have left now. Let's see if there's anyone else online. So it's we've still got Tiago online. Tiago did some great demos of Copilot with Project Ops. So thank you, Tiago. I obviously can't forget Allan's session, very energizing, helped me get through towards the end. So I just want to thank everyone for attending as well. So Saurabh, I think at the beginning of the bootcamp, we had about 130 people. So now we're less than half of that now. It's been a long day for everyone. So, so I just want to thank everyone who's lasted till the very end. Attending a virtual event is a lot harder than an in-person event. So well done to everyone. I'm sure you all benefited. And this is just the beginning of your journey, right? Okay. You've attended this full-day boot camp. You've gained a lot of traction, and you made a lot of headway. But carry that on. Keep in touch with all the speakers. We're going to carry on. The boot camp doesn't end here. So we'll see you all at the next boot camp, whether it's next week or the other boot camps that follow. So I just want to thank everyone. Have a great evening. Get some rest. I want to thank you again, Saurabh, for being able to be at the session at this time of the day, so late in your day as well. And thank you, everyone.
And thanks to you, Raj, for organizing this and bringing so many people together. And I think it's the most difficult thing to do, like bringing a lot of people together to share the knowledge and the experience. So thanks to you to organize such a fantastic event.
Well, Saurabh, the pleasure is all mine. So thank you. And thanks to all the attendees. And we'll see you at the next one, guys. We never stop learning, and may the power be with you all. See you at the next one. Thank you. Have a great evening, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.